We are live.
Nice.
And, um, well, I, it looks like we're live. Welcome, Chris.
Yep.
Appreciate you
Yeah.
for joining me tonight. We are doing a test run, and I am live on Facebook, I believe. And we wanted to essentially test these platforms. We are using StreamYard, and I wanted to jump on here just to kind of test things out, but also introduce to my audience Mr. Chris here. And him and I met on a clubhouse in 2021. That's when I created the club, the LikeHearted Project. And him and I hosted a series of rooms under the title The Talent Ecosystem. We'll explain a little bit about what that is. And then I hosted other rooms in that club, such as Good Mood Mondays, which is more of artist and entertainment showcase. And we had a little bit of open mic. I was able to uh, basically highlight and feature artists that I've met through Clubhouse, and it was really fun. Even was able to showcase some of my friends who are also fellow poets and singers, and it was kind of a cool team as well. And that was a separate um, audience and production team, if you will. But Chris and I have been in touch ever since. It's This is actually our first time being on video together,
Hmm.
I believe. And I'm excited about it because he's been testing out the waters on his end with other people, and I've been doing the same. And I still am testing out my platform in terms of crypto education or crypto edu rather, and just kind of sharing tidbits of myself and updating my audience about what's going on with me. And this is part of that. So I've talked about Mr. Viet's village, or at least kind of I've always imagined being able to introduce people in my network, because I think I got an awesome network, plain and simple. Everyone in my world that I connect with and communicate with and stay in touch with, I'm just so blessed and grateful that there are good people in my life, and I can't wait to have some of you also joining me live, and maybe even not live. It doesn't have to be live. We could pre-recorded and we just kind of upload the content. But there's a lot of things on the horizon that I've always wanted to do, like Mr. Viet's Village, Crypto EDU, uh, and Chris and I have talked about even doing a podcast series or even a video log, right? Um, Not sure if I want to reveal the title just yet, but I am excited about the prospect. And essentially, it will be a series of interviews. Chris and I would interview guests on the show where we would essentially showcase their stories, their backgrounds, and their successes, and how they are thriving in this world that we live in. So let's kind of get into it a little bit. In a moment, I'll go ahead and let you introduce yourself, Chris. But we're here essentially to give an honest conversation about what we're seeing from our different vantage points, and kind of revisit the concepts of the talent ecosystem and the Like-Hearted Project. Give stronger introduction to what the Like-Hearted Project is designed to do, and then you know put out some talking points. Give some social commentary, and hopefully gather some interest in the audience for what is to come, and potential speakers and guests on the platform. So, without further ado, my friend from Boston,
Hmm.
Mr. Chris.
Thank you, Mr. Viet. And it's kind of interesting because, you know, not only do I usually not do video, this is my second, StreamYard of the evening. So, and technically it's the next day. But, I think when we talk about the talent ecosystem, one of the things that was really cool was, we're on platform with on Clubhouse as a platform, which was relatively new. And it was just nice to be able to have conversations that we thought were important to us with an audience, right? And I think this is the next iteration of that. I'm in the staffing space in Boston, and what's really interesting is that it's still a relatively tough market. I think 2025 will be better than 2024, but just generally, people have a hard time understanding how to work with staffing agencies, right? So it's being able to just have some content that people can find, right? And one of the things that always drew me to the like-hearted conversations was we would connect around, the needs. Cyber training was big at the time. Now there's more of an AI focus. But Mr. Viet, you and I kind of stayed in touch even through the changes with the like-hearted initiative, I guess I'll call it, through crypto, right? And crypto feels like it's going to be a not just a great learning tool, but I think in terms of financial wealth, a lot of people will describe it as the redistribution of wealth, but I think you have an opportunity now where folks that maybe had felt shut out from investing, shut out from other opportunities because of the buy-in. You now have what will potentially become the world's most valuable asset, most valuable commodity in Bitcoin that you can buy fractionally, right? So if somebody feels like, hey, real estate's crazy, I can't invest in a house, you can invest a fractional amount in Bitcoin, right? So I know that whether it's through this lens or another, definitely crypto is something that will is something that interests us, and we'll continue to talk about. But I think from a like-hearted perspective, probably what I'll pivot to before I hand it back to you, Mr. Viat, is really and you had mentioned it, we would talk about the talent ecosystem, because I think being on staffing, one of the most frustrating things is you see talent on one side and you see the opportunities on another side, but there's big gaps in between. And sometimes folks that are talented enough to get a role don't, because of applicant tracking systems, requirements, degree requirements, things that may not necessarily reflect what would make a good employee, but they're organizational barriers. And what was nice about the talent ecosystem is we were able to talk about that preparation for job seekers, the education of employers, so they could basically state what they need. Oh, thought I heard something. So they could basically state what they need, but also
Hold on. I'm
you.
sorry about it. I'm monitoring this. My bad. I was
Mhm.
checking to see what it looks like on Facebook.
Oh,
So it's
okay.
actually playing you back.
Was it a
So
timing
I'm
thing?
sorry. It looks good. So let me just
Okay,
close
okay,
that. And I
okay.
muted it, so that's why. But
Yeah. And I'll
again, we're
check later because this may hit my Facebook feed, which I've never really used before. So not my Facebook feed, my YouTube feed. So I'll have to check that
okay.
out.
Yeah.
And
Sorry
oh, that's what it is. I have frozen
interruption.
water, and the water started cracking. So I was like, "What is that noise?" I was like, I thought maybe my son had come down. So but this is what happens. That's why it's a live test, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So do you need me to, can I just keep going from where I was going, or do I need
Yes,
to
please, please.
backtrack or?
Yeah,
Okay.
my apologies. You were talking
Oh,
about
don't,
sort
yeah.
of the what we were doing with the LikeHearted project,
Yeah.
and some of the importance of what we were covering.
Yeah. So, like I said, I'll pass it back to you in a minute, but it's really just about the concept of the talent ecosystem, which I think to this day just speaks to the importance of having the right players at the table, right? So you need employers, you need people that are qualified for jobs, but they understand the training paths, and you need the right training providers, right? And that's where the educational and training institutions would come in. And what I have found, being in the training space and the recruitment space, is that you usually don't get all three parties to the table. And I think that's one of the things that I'm hoping, AI will be, a nice equalizer for, right? Because, like I said, it's one of the things. If you have inequity on one side of this, three pronged equation, it just makes it's not effective. And I think being in recruitment, that's one of the most challenging things that you see, is that the process is flawed, it's broken, and it's tough to see people that really deserve an opportunity not get it, and it's even tougher to know that sometimes in order just to keep up with the amount of volume of work you have, you're aware that things are broken, but you just try to work within that broken system. And I think LikeHearted Project gave us that space to have those substantive conversations. So with that, you know, I'll pass back to you to see, if that resonates with you in any way, brings up any memories, or, where you want to take this conversation.
Yeah, I just went ahead and put up the logo for the LikeHearted project because we got the little space for it. And you know, here's the story behind the LikeHearted project. I was preparing for grad school, and it was not even orientation yet, but because some of my colleagues were not from San Diego, they wanted to set up some sort of a meetup to kind of like break bread together or whatever, just kind of get to know each other, introduce ourselves before the semester would start and before even orientation. So this was kind of like a off it wasn't part of the program. It was just us meeting each other for the first time. And because I've already been in the social innovation space, the our program was social innovation, a master's in social innovation, and also part of the School of Peace Studies. They offered their flagship program, uh, Peace and Justice. So there's a master's in Peace and Justice, and there's the master's in social innovation. So, anyways, we were all sort of in the same Facebook group, which is the Kroc School of Peace Studies, and we had a meetup at a sort of a coffee shop, and we're all talking. Kind of came my turn to introduce myself, and somehow I said something like, I no longer look for like-minded people. I look for like-hearted people. And then one of my classmates, future classmates, said, "Ooh, he said like-hearted," and it kind of resonated with those that were present. I didn't, and it resonated with me. Like it actually, I took pause and saying I did, didn't I? Kind of like, wow, I did say that. I don't think I've ever used that word before. Um, it's never it. So while I was in grad school, the concept didn't click yet, right? The term, that was the first time I had used it. But after sort of going through grad school experience, going through even Vinci, which is the startup that I use for my capstone project, and even incorporate like went on through the full experience of creating a startup with a business partner, my friend Sean. Um, even after all of that, it wasn't until I got into Clubhouse, and it was still fully a fairly new app that launched March of 2020, and right at the beginning of the pandemic and the shutdown. And so I didn't get onto the platform until December of 2020. But by January of 2021, they had opened up the platform for people to apply to open up their own clubs. So I said, you know what? I gotta test something. Let me test this concept of like-heartedness. And by then, I had already had some conversations of what the title would actually be called. And a friend of mine who's into marketing and branding uh, had kind of suggested the Like-Hearted Project. So I said, you know what? I like it. So I had already created the Instagram accounts for, several variations, but Like-Hearted Project seemed to be the one to go with. And so I said, let's create my option for the Clubhouse club, and let's test out Like-Hearted Project. And the idea is essentially almost what it sounds like heartedness versus like mindedness. And I started to realize that the more I compare and the more I look at what our workforce is like, reading, being versed in the World Economic Forum's prediction of over 800 million jobs being lost due to automation and robotics. Um, there was a huge thing called the skills gap, and a lot of that skills gap was social emotional lack of emotional EQ. EQ is the emotional quotient rather than intellectual quotient, which is IQ. And so, what is that? Social skills, people skills, right? Soft skills, things like communication, avoiding conflict, obviously. So we're in a time where there just seems to be a lot of microaggressions, there's a lot of like bullying and toxic environments in the workplace, and we were able to hear those stories as I met Chris and we were running the talent ecosystem. We talked a lot about gaps, gender gaps, uh, gaps of POCs in tech. Uh, what else did we talk about, Chris? What are the gaps? So you know, uh, tech
I think
gaps,
it basically the an
women in
equity gap.
leadership, women in,
Yeah,
yeah, right,
yeah,
equity
yeah.
gap. So this is what was sort of what emerged in, the dozens of conversations that we've had, the dozens of sessions that we've had under the Like Hearted Project. So for me, it also became a concept of, oh, well, how can I take my skill sets as an educator, a workshop facilitator, peace building, problem solving, social innovation, right? How do I take all these skills and talents into this concept of like-heartedness? Well, I'm trying to figure all that out, to be honest. And I went ahead and said, you know what? We still got a concept, and we had a dedicated audience, we had a dedicated mod squad, participants who really enjoyed the space. And so, um, I don't know if it was fortunately or unfortunately, but the world opened up again and people stopped kind of using the platform Clubhouse. And now we're about 3 years, well, 4 years exactly, after the launch of the Like Hearted Project from Clubhouse. So I'm testing out how to expand sort of the momentum that Chris and I had built uh, on other platforms. So I'm reaching back out to, here we are, Facebook Live. And, you guys in my Facebook audience are my family, to be honest, right? Like I started Facebook with friends and family. So you guys know me as a poet, as a Mr. Viet the educator, tutoring. And lately I've been basically it's coming out to say, hey, I'm all into crypto because it's new technology. I think there's an opportunity here. I also want to share my insights about being a solopreneur or an entrepreneur rather, and and being able to help people understand the differences in the different worlds that we live in. And what do I mean by that? Well, there are people who are employees, and then there are people who are entrepreneurs or have side hustles, and they understand that there are multiple streams of income that can be built, and that they're, you know, not everyone is going to be a business owner, but it doesn't mean you can't have a side hustle or be an entrepreneur, even if you have a full-time job, like you're a professor or a teacher, or if you know, you're in a biotech or whatever. I think there's an opportunity here to really collectively, one, learn from each other, and also share stories, our unique stories, our triumphs, our challenges, and to me that's always been valuable. Coming from a the poetry and the spoken word and the open mic scene, the power of storytelling. So here we are, on Facebook Live via StreamYard, testing out the tech, reintroducing ourselves, um, introducing each other to our respective audiences, and really getting a feel for what it is to move forward with this platform. Whether it's the Like-Hearted Project, whether it's Mr. Viet, whether it's Chris C2M, and you know, any other sort of branding or the talent ecosystem. I'll let Chris chime in with uh, the ventures that he has going on in his world as well.
Sure.
So
And oh, go ahead.
yeah, no,
Did
no,
you
no,
want
go
me to go
ahead.
now, or are you still going?
Yeah, yeah, go for it, go for it.
Okay. And I just wanted to say I probably got about another 10 minutes before I need to sign off. Um,
Perfect.
but one of the things, I'll see if this ends up making it to my YouTube, because I'm trying to see how that recording goes. But I think one thing you learned in Clubhouse was the power of voice, the power of community. But you also, those are the pros, right? The cons were, the platform went away for a couple reasons. So not only did the world open back up, but you had founders that just were like, hey, we know you're using the product this way, but here's our vision, right? And it's their product, right? They're able to do that. But I think as creators, we learn that hey, platforms can change, and I think LinkedIn has changed their audio offering. Um, you know, there's always going to be flux. There's always going to be new platforms, but I think the opportunity is really how do you keep the community engaged, and how do you keep the community caring about the issues that they care about, and giving them that platform, right? Because I don't think the caring goes away. Like when Clubhouse went away, it's not like you stopped caring about the Like-Hearted Project and the initiatives associated with that, but the platform shifted, schedule shifted, um, and you need to adapt to that. And with and we used to do rooms like bots, thoughts, right? We would talk about the automation that was coming with robotics, right? And now, with quantum computing about to be, uh, probably more viable at some point, energy dependent, uh, we'll look at AI and what those changes will bring, right? Because I think a lot of the gaps that are in the current hiring system, AI will have the ability to address those on some level. But it's also going to continue to reduce the workforce, right? Not just from an HR perspective, but also on the other side for the segments that are being hired. So it'll be interesting to continue to have those conversations. Um, And I think, what I'll close with is just, like I said, I think that was my biggest takeaway from the time at Clubhouse was that you build a community, but you have to build the resiliency within the community because, things are going to change, platforms are going to change, the way you connect is going to change. And, you know, yeah, I guess I'll leave it there.
Yeah, I agree. The fact that you and I still talk on a regular basis, I've always kind of felt like our conversations were so necessary for an audience to, or, people to hear or be a part of. Um, it's weird because when I talk to you, I almost feel like, man, so many people need to hear this. Like, I wish we were recording our conversations. And that's why it just felt natural. It just feels natural for me to, go live with you on video because um, we we share something that I feel like is what is the illustration of lightheartedness. And I think that's how I've started to understand how I'm able to connect with various audiences, various backgrounds, um, various communities. Uh, it's just I just enjoy being able to have these connections. I enjoy being who I am as Viet. Um, my background, my upbringing, the the role models I've had in my life, the communities that have celebrated me, embraced my art, that have asked me to be a part of their communities, and because of my messaging. So, you know, I I need I've been in a hermit phase for a while, and I think over time I can definitely reveal some of the details of those, um, of why that is. But I am now, I feel like there's a new energy in my life, and I definitely feel that the timing is also appropriate because let's get current events. We are about to transition into another term of presidency. And I think a lot of things that Chris and I are going to be talking about are ways for us to close the gaps in our lives. How's that? Right. So we want to approach it in the spirit of lightheartedness, be able to solve problems with diverse thinking. Okay, so whether it's solving problems in your own personal life, my own personal life, or together as a community, um, that is the spirit of lightheartedness, is that we are super inclusive and have a greater sense of belonging. That, I know I belong into this in this world in some capacity, but I also know that I've always felt included, and I felt that I belong in the different environments that I find myself in. So whether it's in the virtual space such as Clubhouse, in the various communities that I've been able to make awesome friends through, or whether it's sort of Austin Dean Ashford, and the Sophista Ratchet, don't mess with my spirit vibe, right? Like that. These are the fun, communities. Been able to meet them in person. And then there's like the talent ecosystem community and the Good Moon Mondays, and my fellow artists in both live, in Southern California, nationally with the various poetry slam outlets, and virtually in Clubhouse. And um, so I'm looking to get back into all of these things, but more streamlined and more conducive to a platform that I know that I'm trying to build, and be able to tackle and hit a lot of the talking points that are current in our society, in our world. So we do have a lot of, one thing I learned in grad school is that even with adversity or in times of crisis, there is also opportunity. So we are in a time of difficulty for many. Some people are thriving still, right? And what does that look like? And why isn't it, how can we all thrive? Is sort of what my bottom line is. So with that, I'm gonna sort of wrap up what we can look forward to in terms of the Like-Hearted project. I see us doing a video series called, well, here's the reveal. You ready for it? How to be American. I'm gonna pause, let that sit for a minute because when you think about it, we have to question like whatever comes to mind of what an American is. And so as we're in this transition, political transition, I think it's a very valid title for a series. So be on the lookout for How to Be American with Chris and Viet. And I'm super excited for the prospect of it. And I think we have people that are mutual friends with Chris and I through the Like-Hearted Project that I want to bring back to the platform, to this platform. And then I have people in my life. I'm sure Chris has people in his life where we can share those stories. I'm first generation Vietnamese American, and Chris has his background, and I'll let him kind of chime in. But that's one of those series that I see the Like-Hearted Project doing. I also will be soliciting workshops. My flagship workshop for the Like-Hearted Project is really a concept called the Intercultural Conflict Style Inventory, and that is about conflict styles, like what our tendencies are when it comes to conflict, how it shows up, when conflict shows up, how do we tend to respond. Um, just kind of in a nutshell, there's four different types. I know that I'm one of them, and once I kind of realized that my tendency was or is, I've been able to actually do a lot more. Um, I've done a lot better. I've gotten a lot better with conflict management, and so that's with um, inner inner conflict, so personal development, and then interpersonal conflict. So better relationships, and then finally organizational or professional setting. So I'm looking to do more trainings with that workshop under the Like-Hearted Project. Um, in 2022, no, 2023, it was actually, yeah, 2000, February of 2023 is when I officially got the trademark. Shout out to not Teresa, um, Marissa Talbert. I will tag her, but she helped me secure that trademark. And, you know, that doing the Like-Hearted Project in Clubhouse gave me proof of concept. It gave me minimal viable product to go ahead and trademark the, the brand. And so um, I believe that we need to move more in a like-hearted fashion and sort of phase out or at least be critical of the term like-minded. So with that, really looking forward to having more conversations, more guests that we can easily bring to this platform, and let's just talk about it. What does it mean? What do we need to see in a like-hearted world versus a like-minded world? I think with anything, even if you're um what whichever side of the political spectrum that you kind of lean towards or fall under, I think we still have what it means to be American. What does it mean to be like-hearted in America? So, what are the values, the common American values that we can all kind of embrace? It doesn't even have to be America versus everybody, and not in my opinion, because based on what I've been able to do with uh, social audio and even now in the crypto space, is to really connect with several dozens of people from across the planet. Like, it's amazing. I've just met some incredible people all over the world, and my heart has become more open, knowing that there are people globally who are like-hearted. And I really look forward to tapping into sort of their perspective and what their insights are, and just having more conversation. We are now more so in a global economy and a global society. Thanks to the power of technology and media. Don't forget we got AI on. That's a huge hot topic, and I know I'm having fun playing around and experimenting with stuff. So a lot of this live content is also going to be just me putting myself out there, inviting everybody to kind of join in on the conversation. Could be just me having office hours and you get to see what I'm doing in the background or whatever. So if you see me on live, feel free to send me a request to join the space. Also, this live video here it's been recorded. It'll exist on Facebook for however long. And then we'll also use some of the content to create more short form to repost in other social platforms. And so this is us just kind of experimenting and also creating at the very same time, and producing content that can be repurposed. So I'm just kind of being open about it. I'm being experimental. I'm not, I feel real comfortable with Chris, so I just feel like I'm not alone in this process. And I'm grateful again for everybody that I'm in contact with, past, present, and future. So with that, Chris, I'm gonna turn it over to you to see what kind of closing comments you might have, and
Sure.
we'll close it out from here.
Yeah, well, I'll be brief, but yeah, I'm excited about the opportunity to do the podcast around what it means to be an American, and you know, uh, it's not a political statement. It's really a socio-economic survival statement. Really, I mean, it means so many things to different people. And I know you talked a little bit about your background. I'm Cape Verdean, and that just brings up a whole lot of things around race and ethnicity and colorism and a lot of heavy topics that are just prevalent in society and are there but don't get discussed, but that way they don't also the challenges within those spectrums don't get better, right? And I think having those opportunities to really highlight the American experience in a different way, I think will be helpful personally, and then hopefully seeing what kind of audience we can build around that. In terms of just some of the other content we're putting out, I think we're at a like I said, a very interesting space as we hit 2005. I think AI is going to help us just streamline a lot of content in a lot of different ways. And I think it's very interesting coming out of, social audio, because I think a lot of people went into social audio thinking that, um, it was going to end up being something maybe a little different than it ended up being. But I think the lessons and the connections have been powerful. And now just to see, no matter what platform I'm on now, I can be on LinkedIn and I notice like the first 10 feeds in my post are people that I connected with on Clubhouse, right? So it's just really interesting to see that interconnectivity and where that's going to go. And what I'm most excited about is, taking this video content and again being able to repurpose it, right? And being able to reach audience in a totally different way. I think one of the primary goals I'm going to have is really, educating primarily the entry level career force, and entry level from the perspective of you know how adjacent people are to opportunities, right? Because what I'm finding is that you can have somebody that's had a career and now they're making a pivot, and they need to understand how to pivot into a different workspace. And I do a little work in the acting space, which is definitely an industry that's being impacted heavily by AI, right? So, what does it mean to be in the acting space in this age of technology? But also, there's an opportunity to teach some staffing skills to folks that need to continue to make money, even if it's not on a movie set, right? So I'm just truly interested in seeing all the places where these conversations will take us. But I think at the root of it is what we had originally started talking about, right? These gaps and these inequities, because it takes a lot to address them. It takes awareness. It takes champions within organizations that really want to see the change happen. Uh, but most importantly, it takes money, right? And you don't get the money unless you've got a compelling story to tell around what that true value proposition is. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I'm here on the East Coast, so it's a little late on my end. So before I start talking in circles, I'll pass back to you, Viet, for the close. And yeah, I'm excited to see where we go with this.
Yeah. I'm not sure. Okay, so it cut in and out towards the end. I'm not sure if that happened, if it's my computer or the live stream garbled it up as well. But um, I I appreciate you for your time. I know it's late out there on the East Coast, and it is Friday night. I even me, I'm getting cloudy. But there's just so much to cover now, and I'm excited about, the task, or the challenge up ahead. And we're about to see what happens. Is a Trump presidency going to be challenging to live through? Um, or is it going to be easy, depending on your situation? Let's talk about it, right? I want to hear from people who have those different perspectives. I think there's opportunity, like I said, there's opportunity on the table, for everybody. And I think we just need to be in tune with what those opportunities are and how they may or may not apply to you, uh, depending on your background, your training, your awareness of what's available, all these different things. And the more we share each other's stories and insights, I think the better we kind of get to see our positioning in where we are. So the reality is we are in a transitional era, with new technology, with new political environments, with new economic environments, with oh my gosh. Let's talk about let me give a quick shout out and really a heartfelt um pause for LA right now, Los Angeles. It's just chilling to see that much devastation. Whether it's been uh, naturally occurring or human error, kind of gone haywire. Either way, it's just devastating. My heart goes out to Los Angeles. My heart goes out to um, victims of terrorism. um, all over the world, domestically here and abroad. So it's things like that where I know it is time for the Like-Hearted Project to step up and provide a platform for finding out some of these really challenging solutions, difficult, uh, innovative solutions that are to address these challenging times. So with that, Chris, again, can't thank you enough. Really appreciate you, brother, and I always look forward to our conversations. Always appreciate you checking in with me on a weekly basis. Shout out to my roommate Greg, just passed by. Be on the lookout for even him, Greg and I. Greg being a part of the show, maybe if he's down to do that. Um, he should give me a nod. So uh, I'm excited. I just am excited to get back into the world. And what I realize is that even given my health challenges, I can still do that virtually here, like as we're experimenting with now. And I think that's the compromise, and that's the new sort of aha moment I had for myself is that I can still continue to be Mr. Viet even if I can't be in person all the time. And I think that's why this is such a great, opportunity for all of us is that we can take our efforts virtually and maybe even, who knows, have a bigger reach than we ever imagined for ourselves. So that's where I'm coming from. Shout out to all my San Diego people. Shout out to all the Clubhouse people, and all the Twitter X, the new Twitter X people, through crypto and through just various platforms. Looking forward to sharing more about all that crypto edu. We're gonna have more conversations under the guise of the talent ecosystem. Any other platforms that you kind of are want to put out there or let people know about, Chris?
I think school, from a community building perspective, there's going to be some natural intersectionality there. Being a recruiter, I'm on LinkedIn a lot. So, that would be something that probably gets highlighted. And, you know, the, the first StreamYard, I did this, well, I guess it'll be yesterday now at this point. It was, we'll be able to find that on LinkedIn. So I think you're just going to see content in a lot of different places. So, you know, I think from a video perspective, definitely YouTube is somewhere that I think a lot of this content will end up landing. And like I said, I might be recording on YouTube. I might not. We'll figure that out. Um, but yeah, I think it's just wherever community is, I think Like-Hearted has a place there. So hopefully we'll find the most efficient way to take content and put it in as many places as people need to see it, you know?
Sounds good. Sounds good. Yeah, I agree. We're gonna blast this everywhere. So whether you're catching the full live stream on Facebook or snippets, more short content on LinkedIn or Twitter or uh, YouTube Shorts or whatever. TikTok, actually, something TikTok became on my radar pretty recently, and I may even have somebody willing to help me to kind of get my TikTok going. So be on the lookout for all of these things. If you look, I want your feedback. If you have been watching and you're listening, let me know if you're available, you want to join, maybe if you have expertise in a certain area and you want to kind of talk about your insights. If you have a platform that you prefer, we'd love to, experiment and on the various platforms. I just chose Facebook Live because of that's you guys are my original audience um, since day one. As Mr. Viet and the poet was coming alive. Um, so with that, we may try, you know, Instagram Live at some point, but there were some weird settings that I needed to set up before I did that. But yeah, Chris, I'm trying to help blow you up as much as you're helping to blow me up, and I think we're on to something. We have always been on to something, and it's just a matter of time when it catches on. I believe.
Yeah. Well,
So
I'm looking forward to this, and I don't know if the crypto piece will be totally separate or integrated somehow, but I think it's a good year for crypto, no matter where you stand politically. I think mass adoption is coming, and it's interesting. It's interesting that this feels like crypto will be part of the dialogue within the administration, right? And
yeah,
I think what is super interesting about that is, again, I'm not a political person at all. I think whatever side of the aisle you're on, there's probably politicians that are helpful to the community, and some that aren't as helpful, right? I think that's just the process. But I think when you start thinking about just the shifts in crypto, not just in this administration, and potentially trying to make the United States the crypto headquarters of the world, you've got other nations, other countries that are making it part of their currency, right? And that's what's
right,
interesting, because I think you're moving from stored value and wealth to commerce, and that's literally revolutionary. So again, whether it has a space here within LikeHearted or adjacent to LikeHearted, I mean, that's how we've kept our dialogue going throughout the years, is through our mutual interest of crypto. So it'll be interesting to see how that all kind of plays out. But definitely, I don't want to get into that rabbit hole now, because I'm probably signing off soon. But
yeah,
like I said, just from an administration standpoint, I think that's yeah, it's fun. It's fun and interesting and a little scary all at the same time to know that that's going on. So it's I guess if something can make you feel something, it can't be bad.
right, right. And I'm all about entrepreneurship, so I want to help people kind of start that side hustle, or at least kind of start thinking about it, because honestly, we saw what happened in the last time he was the president. A lot of middle class got hit hard with taxes, and I think the solution, or to offset that, is to establish some sort of a side business, or even a full-on business in addition to your profession. So um, there's just many benefits to being a business owner, per se, and being able to write off, your expenses. So, that's sort of where I'm saying, like, I need I need to help educate during these times, and I'm looking forward to doing just that. Um, so yeah, I think this is a good point. This is a good time to sort of wrap up, and or basically call it a night. Um, let's see. Any last thoughts before I kind of go through my monologue of closing?
No, no, I'm here to listen. This is my favorite part. So have at it, and thank you for hosting, man.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you. So, I'm gonna go ahead and go in solo mode. Feel free to stay on here, Chris. And man, so the Like-Hearted Project is essentially a peace building methodology, and really trying to make impact on the world through culture and conversation. So it's a peace building agency. Uh, what's my tagline? Building peace through culture and conversation. And we are trying to solve problems, and you can't solve problems with the same thinking. So I kind of figured it's appropriate to have the three to four P's: people, planet, and prosperity. Uh, and that's what I hope to kind of like focus our operations on. Whether it's the live conversations or you know digital conversations, or if it's actual services rendered through workshops and training. I have been an educator and a trainer, mentor, facilitator for pretty much all my life in my working career. And I just am ready to take my talents to the greater stage of the world and go more global and more private sector, because I think it's just it's time. It's time for us to have these conversations more broadly. So, um, with that, I usually kind of close off with the saying, and uh, that is to essentially, um, until next time, take care of yourselves and each other. Peace.